30 times. Ten times more. Two times more. Letting go and stop.
And I love that you're in this field of understanding the mind-brain connection and how it plays into our thoughts and our emotions, our feelings, our mental health, and everything else that's happening in our lives. My first question is, what is the difference between the mind and the brain? And does the brain control the mind, or does the mind control the brain?
You've asked one of my favorite questions there. That's a really great place to start. I've got some props. Is that okay? Can I use some props to show you?
Show me.
Okay,
Explain.
so I've got some...
I need to understand in a simplified way.
Okay, so here's a brain, not a real one, in a skull, and the terminology for about the last 40 years is that the mind and the brain have been used interchangeably. So most people think when you talk mind, you're talking brain, or when you're talking brain, you're talking mind. And most of the popular literature, even the scientific literature that the media tends to put out, talks about how the brain produces thoughts, or the brain produces the mind. But your brain actually can't do anything on its own. So if you did, and if I was holding up this, if this was a real brain and I just took it out of someone's head, which I wouldn't do, but if it was bleeding and whatever, and you looked at this brain, we could stare at this all day long, but it would never do anything. So what is the difference between a dead brain and yours and mine and the listeners and the viewers is that you are actually thinking, feeling, and choosing. You're alive, and your aliveness is your mind. And your mind is this ability that of what you're doing right at this moment as you're listening to me. You are processing the auditory sound waves, the electromagnetic light waves, through your ability to think and feel and choose, which is mind. So your mind is this like processing, unique, brilliant processing field, gravitational field around and through your brain and body, and you convert what you're hearing and seeing into actual meaning, and that meaning is formed from trees that you actually grow into your brain. So 400 billion actions per second, you're using your mind to translate auditory and visual signals into protein tree-like structures in your brain to make sense of what I'm saying. And then each new thing that I say, you're growing more and more. And everything I'm saying is in the root section because it's the source of the information. And the tree trunk and the branches are your interpretation of what I'm saying. And you're linking it to other existing, whatever I'm triggering at the moment that you know about whatever in your life related to our subject. And that keeps going. And that's what we do all the time. Your mind is always with you, and your mind works through the brain, and the brain then responds. So here's a little model. So your mind is the gravitational field, and this is not woo-woo science. This is hardcore Nobel Prize-winning science, that this discovery of the gravitational field. In fact, Einstein spoke about it back in the early 20th century.
Thirty times. 10 times more. Two times more. Letting go and stop.
How each human has this gravitational field, this electromagnetic field around us, and that is basically through us. And when you die, that's not there anymore. And that's the thing that's kind of keeping you alive. And that's the thinking, feeling, choosing, the psychological version, and the sciencey version is this gravitational field. So it's a little bit like a magnet. This is a super easy way to understand it. If you imagine a piece of white paper and you put a whole lot of iron filings on the paper, you may have done this at school, and then you bring a magnet and you put that in the middle of this mountain of iron filings, and suddenly you've got this beautiful electromagnetic field. The iron filing arranges itself into this field around the magnet. So you can't see the electromagnetic field, but you can only see it because the iron filings, it's invisible, but the iron filings follow the tracing of the field, and therefore you can see it. So the relationship between the magnet and the field allows the iron filings to express themselves in that pattern. The brain is like the magnet, and the field is your mind, and the relationship allows you to express your behaviors. So the little pattern is your behaviors. And the biggest core thing is that that's the primary source. You never stop thinking. Your mind is always going. You wake up with your mind, you eat with your mind, you choose your clothes with your mind, you're doing the podcast with your mind, you go to sleep with your mind. So mind is the source, and if you don't understand and manage it, it's changing anyway, then it's a mess. And if it's a mess, your brain and body are a mess, and you can't achieve greatness. So to achieve greatness, you need to understand mind. There you go. There was a mouthful.
Let's just end the podcast now. That was perfect. So how wide can this? So the mind, your thinking, your ideas, your thoughts, is a field, an energetic field.
Yeah.
Around you, inside of you, connected through your whole body, and then outside of your body. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Exactly. Totally.
How far does the field extend? Is it 2 feet in front of us? Is it 6 feet? Is it a football field? How far can it go?
We don't really know, because when you're talking about quantum physics and gravitational fields, there's a lot of interaction that occurs. But what the science seems to show is that it's kind of almost how, like around us, sort of this
like a halo-y field.
Like and it's probably more but it interacts because everyone's got this field, and then we live in gravitational fields. So everything around you is a gravitational field. So everything's interacting.
Thirty times. Ten times more. 2 times more. Letting go and stop.
And so that's why, when you come up to someone, an example would be like that electrostatic shock. When when you brush past someone, you get that. And on a more psychological level, you can experience that field is like maybe you're in a really great mood, and then you get into a conversation with some friends and they're so totally depressed, and you come away from there thinking, I feel awful, I need to go and have a shower. You feel so their field has interacted with yours and impacted you, because that field is coming from your mind, which then uses the brain and converts what you're experiencing into these thoughts, and then these thoughts are generating, there's this whole relationship, the iron filings concept, and this is back and forth, and this literally is photons. Einstein showed this, that we're literally generating from our thoughts as we talk from our thoughts, that you can't talk without thoughts. You build thoughts, and then your actions and behaviors and communication come from the thoughts. So this would generate healthy, it's a nice healthy green tree, and here's a toxic one. So this would be a toxic, the depression or whatever, being negative or whatever. That would generate toxic photons, and these are the ones that would make you, you feel it. You feel that negativity, this sense of you're around a happy person and you just feel like amazing, And so it's very real. This is not some ethereal thing. We're talking about the non-physical sciences of quantum physics and things like that, but it's real, and there's an impact and an effect, and we can control it. That's the interesting thing.
What is the definition of quantum physics? What is that in relation to the mind?
So quantum physics is considered to be one of the most fundamental and accurate sciences, and at its most simple level, because it's really had bad press, but it's been around for very long, and it basically just deals with the unseen, when you talk about particles and waves and the subatomic level. So what we can see now looking at each other would be what we would consider the classical physics realm, that you can see and touch and feel and hear. So it's very...
you can operate on it. You can...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the physical. But if you actually, and we see from studying at the atom that things get smaller and smaller, and then you've got the subatomic level, then you're entering the quantum world. So once we go into the subatomic level, we actually see that the atom is not really an atom. Particles change according to their waves, and then they're particles only when you actually look at them. So it's considered the observer effect, and it's really interesting because it means that we have these waves of energy, and as we make a choice, we create reality, which we do. So as you think, feel, and choose, you change your brain, because every time you choose, think, feel, and choose, those three things always go together. Always thinking means you're always feeling. Thinking and feeling means you're always choosing, and it's happening at like 400 billion actions per second constantly.